to help you keep your deals together. And so let's talk about the top 10 mistakes that we make as agents when we're negotiating. We negotiate emotionally. What is our job? Protect our client and get to the closing table, right? Is the other agent an adversary? No. No, they need to be a partner. We're in this together. Neither one of us gets paid unless we get to the closing table. And it's wrecks my brain how many agents have to win. That's their goal, is to win. I want to get a better deal for my client than you do for yours. Responding too quickly. So I love this phone call. I have a listing, an agent can show it, and they call me. Gary, my client loves this house. It checks all of the boxes. We're going to submit an offer. Please tell me you don't have any offers in hand. So I was like, well, I don't have any in hand right now. We've had a lot of showings. What have I done as a buyer's agent? How should that phone call go? Because I'm giving away all my leverage, right? Yeah. So it should be, hey, Judy, Gary, Keller Williams, I just showed you listing on 123 Main Street. My client may have some interest to it. Can you tell me about the seller situation and what's most important to them besides price? Because price is important for everybody. So what can you tell me about them? And then I'm trying to gather intel, right? I'm trying to make an offer that matches what they need and want. And that can help you win in any market. I had some clients who were looking to get in Beaufort City schools for the new school year. This was before COVID. They were staying with families, so they didn't have to move right away. And so the sellers, I found out, were having a new home built, and it wasn't going to be ready till July 31st. And so if we'd have submitted an offer, even full price, 30-day closing, they had to move out in June, find somewhere to live for 6 weeks, store their things and pay for that. Not an attractive deal. But by submitting an offer where we can close July 31st, we even offered $10,000 less than asking price. And we still won the deal because we made the offer better for them, not having to move twice, not having to pay for storage. They still came out ahead with our offer. So before you ever write an offer, talk to the listing agent. Before you ever, or when you do receive an offer, call the buyer's agent and try to gather that same kind of intel. Okay, because that can help you strategically respond to an offer. Using aggressive language. Nobody likes, well, that's ridiculous. Well, my client hates that. That's unacceptable. Right? Is that in the spirit of cooperating and trying to get to a deal? It's, you want to change the language and you want to change the tone. It's like, well, let's talk about what are the priorities for your client and see if we can reach an agreement versus that aggressive language. Overusing email and text. I'm talking to you young people with that texting. So what is lost when you just communicate over text? Tone. And tone can go a long way. If you have a nice, friendly conversation versus text me something in all caps, trying to tell me you're screaming at me over text. Pick up the phone and have a conversation. Something that could take a 5-minute conversation versus 18 emails or 3 hours of texting. Pick up the phone. Failing to manage your client's expectations. So have you ever been representing a buyer? You get a home inspection back from Rob, and it's got 53 items.
Thanks, Rob.
That was a good one. I think the bonus.
And the client says, well, I want everything fixed. Is that reasonable? No, we're going to talk about those priorities as far as the inspection. Allowing small problems to escalate. And before I leave this one, talk to them about the transaction, even if they bought recently or sold recently. Still have that conversation of when is what's gonna happen in the process of getting us on the market, under contract to the closing. What are the pitfalls? What are the gotchas? I walk into a listing and they're like, I don't want any of these appliances. We're not taking any of them with us. So what would most agents do? You go to SPD and you check that they're all stable. But those are bargaining chips and they can be goodwill when things get tough in a conversation. Now, if they ask for them in the deal, we'll negotiate them with the deal, but don't just give away leverage that you could use in negotiations. I know the client doesn't want them, but I'll leave them off the SPD so that when we do get a sticking point, it could be, hey, how about instead of this, we leave the appliances, right? Client's not out any more than they were before because they didn't want to take their 12-year-old appliances with them anyway, right? Allowing small problems to escalate. So if you have an issue, such as we're supposed to close in a week and my client's hours got cut and they no longer qualify. I was talking to Justin this morning, no, it was Kirk this morning, who was in a deal and you could never get a hold of the other agent, right? So small issues can turn into huge problems when you don't communicate. So when an issue comes up, communication is the key. Over communicate, especially when there's a problem, and keep people updated. People who are sitting on idle, they get stressed, they get nervous, and it's easier for them to walk away. But if you're constantly updating them with here's the status of the problem. We talked about Southeast Mortgage, he's going to restructure or he's going to change to another loan product, and we're going to be able to close. That's the path you want to take and just ignoring it. We talked about an inspection, a massive inspection request, disappearing. We talked about focusing only on price. Is price the only term and condition of a contract? No, there's lots of negotiable items in a contract. And then forgetting the human side of negotiations. Where is our Y42Cs is right outside the door. What's our first one?
Win-win.
Win-win, not when you got taken advantage of or I crushed you in negotiations. That's not the goal. The goal is win-win and no deal, a good deal for everyone. Is it okay to pay listing price for a house? Yes, it is okay to pay for the home. It's approximately. It's okay. Yeah. So everybody wants to feel like they won something. So again, having those little things that you can throw in on a deal, like appliances, other things like that, pool furniture, a gas grill, things like that can help. All right, so before we go through the rest of the slides, let's look at a purchase and sale agreement real quick and talk about a couple of the negotiable items. Or we can start with a conventional loan exhibit. Okay. That'd be fine too.
Guess what we're gonna start with?
All right. So obviously none of this is negotiable. You guys know how to fill that out. Purchase price is obviously negotiable. What should we do if we have a property that we're going to write an offer on? What's the research we want to do first? Comps, just like we would do comps before we went to a listing appointment. We want to do comps before we write an offer. And Dara just covered the percent of sale price to list price. Are houses selling for list price in this neighborhood? Are they selling over list price? Or are they selling under list price? Let's know that information. Seller's contribution toward buyer costs. We can get that information from the closed sales as well to see if sellers in this area or this neighborhood are paying closing costs to the buyer. So that's a negotiable item, obviously. Closing date, that example that I gave you with those buyers that had time, that could be a huge negotiating chip in your factor if you make things easier for the seller. So again, have that conversation with the listing agent before you write your offer. Closing attorney, earnest money. How much do you guys want in earnest money?
At least 1%.
Yeah. How much no broker fee? All you need is interest rate.
Thousand.
Yeah. Right. We got we're protecting two different people there, right? I get why David just wants us to keep $1,000. That's lowering the risk. I get it for everybody, for us too. But if my client takes a house off the market for up to 30 days and the buyer defaults, $1,000 isn't enough to me. So I'm with you guys, the 1%. All right. Due diligence. You got great inspector partners. They can get to your inspection fast. That's an advantage. If I just do a 2 or 3 day due diligence period versus the agents that are asking for 7 to 10 days. Now, I want to talk about option money. 99% of agents don't know what that section is. That section has won me more business in competitive markets than I can count. So basically what this is saying, I'll submit an offer and I'll have $1,000 here by check or whatever the seller wants, immediately available funds as of the offer date or within 3 days. I do as of the offer date. And then either it shall or shall not be applied toward the purchase price. So basically what I'm saying, Mr. Seller, if you sign our contract today, my buyer is going to write you a check, not to your broker, not to your agent, but to you for $2,500. And if this deal doesn't close, you keep it. Now, you got to have a buyer that's on board with that, right? Because they're taking a big risk. But is that a differentiator in a market where you have multiple offers? It may not be coming up right now. There's still somebody had a listing not too long ago with multiple offers. Was that you?
I put in an offer on one that had 16 offers.
Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah.
If you would offer to write the seller a check, that they can cash that day and put that money in their pocket, could that have been a differentiator in getting the deal? Okay, so don't ignore this. Again, that's why we call, hey, how many offers do you have? You know, I don't want to waste your seller's time. I don't want to waste your time. And I don't want to waste your buyer's time by submitting an offer that's not going to win. Can you tell me what the best offer you have? Can they tell us?
If they're selling, they get permission.
That's exactly right. If their seller gives them permission, they don't know that. So they'll say, oh, I can't tell you that information. Sure you can. You just need to get your seller's permission. Do you want me to submit an offer that's not going to win? And you have to review it and cover it with your seller? No, you don't want that. Kurt.
That option money doesn't have to come from the buyer, could you help your buyer?
Ooh.
I don't know.
I'm not an attorney or a broker. Yeah, that's a good one for David.
And do you have to get that approved by a lender?
I
If it's on like a lower budget client?
We would have to, if it's being applied to our contract, but
Yeah.
if not, no.
Well,
It's
and that
basically legal bribery.
I might call it something else when you're presenting.
Well, I4C2T is the I stands for integrity. I'm just-
But you
Right.
wanna make sure they're not using their down payment money. Right, that was my concern.
Right.
You gotta make sure they have that.
If it's a cash problem.
Yeah, it would be good if they're getting a loan, loop them in, just hopefully they would be using that.
Yeah.
You never know.
Never
Okay.
know, never.
Well, that says it just says additional option money paid by buyer, by buyer to seller. It doesn't seem to give an option of an agent. When he asked that question.
If the agent's giving the buyer the money, I think it's good.
Oh, gotcha.
That's a lead generation fund.
That's a little fun. I mean, I guess you could always, take a portion of your commission and credit it to your buyer.
Cause you
You
do
can
it.
do that.
You said that before.
This one, you would have to write a check immediately.
Yeah.
If it
Oh,
was
it's
your.
immediate.
So let the buyer write the check and then you reimburse them through that credit. line. As long as everything's on the settlement statement.
Yes, don't do a side check.
Nothing else out of closing. All right, so we're, time limit, just to talk about time limit real quick. How often do you guys usually give on time limit? 24 hours.
Depending on.
Depends on the house. Yeah, if it's Friday afternoon, and this is the house that checks all the boxes. I'm gonna write 7 o'clock Friday night.
What time did you put your offer in?
Before all the showings come up in the weekend.
Yeah, I want to force their hand because this is the house for my client.
But seriously, what time, you're putting your offer in at, what time?
I mean, 3 or 4 o'clock. I ain't working past that.
So you're only giving up like 4 hours.
I mean, I start getting ready to bed at 7 o'clock. I can't wait. All right, what, there's something else over here?
No, she was just saying you give them 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah. And you know what? If you don't like it, roll the dice. But we're going out again tomorrow, looking at houses. And so you let it expire, come crawling back. Now I've got some more leverage. Okay. And then stipulations, special stipulations are back because we just saw 49 more listings, 28 less closings. What's happening with inventory? Going up, right? So it's really, I think it's already turned, but it's definitely becoming a buyer's market. So asking for septic clearance letters and termite clearance letters and home warranties is coming back in style. All right.
And we have in your GAR forms, special stipulations that are already written for you.
Yes.
So that you don't have to try to get creative with your verbiage.
Yeah. I think David goes over this in his contracts class, but about being very specific about seller agrees to have a licensed professional electrician replace GFCI outlets that are not working by the sink, blah, 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 with receipt provided to the buyer 3 days before closing, that kind of thing.
And a few years ago, make sure you have a consequence if they don't do that, because you have to have the whole sentence in, like those special steps, they usually have that consequences if they don't do that.
Right.
Okay. All right. Let's look at the conventional loan exhibit real quick. There's one that's sneaky agents. And our eye is integrity. And apparently these people have no eye. So this interest rate at par, not greater than X% per annum. What are rates right now? 6.5. If you see somebody put 5.5% right here, because what they're saying is, I agree that I am getting a loan. I'm applying a good faith seeking to obtain a conventional loan for X% of purchase price for 30 years at 5.5% fixed. They're gonna be able to get that loan? I mean, not unless we're buying down the rate. And maybe we are. If I was putting a rate buy down in my contract, maybe I would do that. I would want to check with Todd and make sure that I've got that calculation correct. But just be mindful of that. Watch sneaky agents that are looking for an easy out for their buyer. Because there's some knuckleheads out there. Anybody dealt with knuckleheads before?
Or they were just too lazy to change it from another time.
Yeah, 2 years ago when they last did it.
Yeah.
So when you do a rate buy down, you put it in your contract?
I do.
How interesting.
Yeah, because if I still can't get that rate with the rate buy down, I've asked them for that money, you've agreed to that money. So if I just put 6.5 in there and the rate buy down couldn't get me where it was, I couldn't terminate using that, right? But if I've got it where I want it to be, I mean, 1%'s a lot. That would be a lot. That would cost a lot.
Mhm.
You're not gonna get 1%, but you might get a quarter or a half.
My favorite is when it says market.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's market. Yeah. So
We're at a seafood restaurant.
that's supermarket, yeah. Fish market.
If it says market, you can't afford it.
Yeah.
Amen to that. All right, so let's go back to the slides. Any questions on any of that? Slam through these in 7 minutes. Okay, we did the review. We talked about what to do before submitting an offer and what to do when receiving an offer. The goal is not to win arguments. The goal is to get to the closing table, protect the client while preserving the transaction. The biggest deal killers, or let me back up. We kind of talked about the mind shift set that real estate agents need to have, that we're all in this together. We have a seller that wants to sell a house. We have a buyer that wants to buy a house. It's our job to get everybody to the closing table and make everybody happy, right? So we need to reduce friction, control emotions. We need to be the calming force. When things are getting heated and your seller says, I'm gonna get in the car and drive over there, our response is not who's driving. It's don't. I know.
Dang it.
Mayor wants to.
Dang it.
Come on, we're not going to. And protecting our client. This is something I focus on in pre-license class. Our primary job is to protect our client. And I know a lot of you don't remember a lot about pre-license class anymore because they tell you just learn it to pass the test and then you won't need it anymore. There are 26 things that I highlight in pre-license about ways we protect our client, and that is our primary job. Okay. And then keep the momentum moving. Again, a dead deal helps nobody. And the goal is not to win the argument, the goal is get to the closing table. Okay. So the biggest deal killers, ego. We all have a little bit of ego. Some people in this business have more ego that can fit into this room. It's not about you. It's not a reflection of you. We get paid at closing, period. For communication, we've all experienced that with co-op agents. Some of us maybe been guilty of that ourselves, but good communication is key. Delaying responses, emotional reactions, inspection overload, and financing surprises. And we have people to help us with that, right?
Can I add one thing to that?
Sure.
For the communication part, when I went to family reunion, Jen Davis, if you guys don't know Jen Davis at KRI, she was on a panel with Sarah and she talked about that she has a thing that it's called no update updates. That even if all of our clients, buyer or seller, no matter who it is, on the same day of the week, every week at the same time, she spends 2 hours. And even if there is not an update, she gives them an update. So they are not sitting waiting to get some sort of feedback.
Yeah.
And just making sure. And the other part of that was the delayed responses. If you don't have the response to answer a question, at least respond that you got their question and you'll get back to them once you get the information. Don't just not
Yes.
respond. Like it just, it's.
Every Monday, I talk to my sellers.
Mhm.
And for the last 2 months, that conversation has sucked. Because the listings are sitting, we've done price reductions, we've done improvements, we've done cleaning that they told them they should have done to begin with, but they didn't believe me. So those are not fun conversations, but if I don't have those conversations, then are they going to refer me? When they get ready to sell that house again or buy another one, are they going to come to me? No, what's the number one? We see this every year at family reunion. The number one reason a consumer does not use the last agent that they had again.
They don't keep in touch.
They don't keep in touch.
Right.
Signed the listing agreement and we never saw Gary again until the closing. Or we never heard from Gary again unless there was a showing request. Okay, deals die in silence. So again, we talked about that. Don't just not communicate. Give updates, acknowledge problems quickly, keep all parties informed. Even just we're still working through solutions is an update. So we are evaluating, we're coming up with solutions and we're working through those. It's better than disappearing. Okay. Stop negotiating through email. We talked about give the other side a win. Home warranty, flexible closing date, appliance inclusion, again, small credit, closing cost contribution. Again, these are bargaining chips that, a lot of us give right out the gate because we're begging for showings right now, right? So we'll put in there $10,000 anyway, like the builder. We're trying to be like the builders, right? $10,000 any way you want to spend it. Price reduction, closing costs, rate buy down. If they're willing to do that, maybe you offer up 5. And then have 5 in your pocket. Keep some leverage in your pocket because you're probably going to need it at some point. Language matters. Avoid unacceptable. Take it or leave it. My client refuses. And use how can we make this work? Let's find middle ground. What matters most to your client? And you'll find that if you have this conversation before you write your offer with the listing agent to get the information on the seller and vice versa. You will find you avoid a lot of these headbutting between the buyer and the seller if everybody knows everybody's situation. All right, inspection negotiation tips. So we got Rob's report with 50-something items on it. Rob's really proud of that.
That's a good inspection.
And he's only there an hour and a half. Yeah. So obviously the safety issues, structural issues, major systems, and the expensive repairs are legitimate concerns, right? Try to avoid cosmetic complaints, minor wear and tear. If you are buying a house that's brand new, is Rob's inspection going to find something wrong?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, a brand new construction house is gonna have issues. That's why builders hate inspectors. They don't want them coming in. They just want to tell you, hey, it's brand new. What's your problem? So try to set, again, your client's expectations of, and even sometimes in a tough market, when it's a competitive market, a seller's market, is maybe we're just doing a pass fail inspection. We're just looking for Rob to see major issues that really are deal killers versus some of the smaller things, minor wear and tear. Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. I like it.
You're good.
Appraisal gap solutions. So anybody ever had an appraisal come in short? Anybody ever challenged an appraisal? Did you win?
Yes. Yes and no.
Yeah. You got to be able to prove that the appraiser did not follow the, I don't know the acronym. I know it for accounting, GAAP, the generally accepted accounting principles, but I don't know what the generally accepted appraiser principles are, but there's an acronym for it. And you have to prove they didn't follow this. I won one because the company sent a guy from Dawsonville, who didn't live on the lake, down to Lake Oconee to appraise a house. Never appraised Lake Oconee before, found out. And 3 of the 6 comps weren't even on the water, and this house was on the water. So, I mean, I'm not an appraiser. Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't put your eggs in that basket, because it's very difficult to prove that. Because really, the appraiser has his opinion, and the realtor has their opinion, right? And we can argue about comps, and we can argue about adjustments, but normally the appraiser is going to win that argument. So let's try and find some other solutions. Let's talk about splitting the difference. Although if you've read the book, never split the difference. But I would rather split the difference and get a deal closed than try to get my client another $2,500 and have Justin, we're $10,000 apart. I'm trying to give them $7,500 and we'll go $2,500. Or we could go 5 and 5, which they may perceive as more fair. Which would you rather do? And so Justin may be willing to walk away from this house over $2,500. But let the client make that decision and give the client those options. Adjust concessions. We can take back some of the closing costs we agreed to. We can take back leaving the appliances that we might have agreed to. We could bring cash to the table as the buyer. And then we can go back to our lender and say, is there a different loan product or a different way to structure this deal to make it work and close that gap? You know, maybe it's a little cash from both parties and something the lender could do for us. All right. Phone agents control deals. Communication saves deals. Momentum matters, and great agents hold deals together.
Boom.
Any questions? Any thoughts? A lot of concerns. I do have some examples of scripts. Just real quick, like for example, emotional seller. I completely understand you feel that way. My concern is making sure we don't lose a qualified buyer over something we may be able to solve creatively. Sorry. So I've got those for emotional seller, emotional buyer, difficult agent. I'll send those to Abby so if you can get them out. Awesome.
I have a question.
Yes.
How would you handle if you have an appraisal on a property and the appraisal came back more than you thought it would. So then you lose your leverage with your seller because now they're convinced because the appraiser said it's worth X, but the market is telling you it's worth Y.
Yeah.
How do you negotiate with that seller to get them to agree to bring the house down?
So I just went through that. So we did a pre-listing appraisal
Mhm.
on a house on 6 acres on Flat Creek Road in Oakwood, where I am dominating houses that do not sell. I thought 375 to 400. She said, well, I think it's higher than that. I think it's 450. We did a pre-listing appraisal and it came back 480. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, all right, well, and I own the rental house next to her. Her husband died a few years ago, and I've helped her with things. I'm gonna do anything for her she got me to do. So I said, well, where do you want to list it? I said, do you want to list it at 450? And she says, no, I'm not giving up $30,000. And I said, well, hang on. It's an opinion. It's the appraiser's opinion. They're trained, they're smart, but it's their opinion. You had your opinion, I had my opinion. Maybe we should take the average of all the opinions. Guess what the house is listed for?
500.
Exactly.
I'm just saying, like, there's a theme in all of this.
Yeah.
What I want to try it and do is then say, okay, well, let's look at your competition. What can I get in this area for $500,000?
Right.
And it's a lot better than 6 acres in a manufactured home. Plus, there's high tension power lines running all the way down the side.
Mhm.
That's going to eliminate a lot of buyers, right?
So,
It's not going to do it.
Two cents.
So at the end of this month, I wrote in the contract that 30 days, we're gonna do something, either take it off the market or a significant price reduction, not 5,000, 10,000. Is that gonna move the needle on a $500,000?
No.
What's the EP on?
I'll give you 375.
The appraiser.
What's that?
Who picked the appraiser?
But it happens.
Every time I do a pre-listing appraisal, I seem to.
They always want to list higher.
They do. She's like, well, I want some wiggle room to negotiate. And I'm like, well, we gotta have some buyers come look at it before we get into negotiations.
No wiggle room by yourself.
We've had one showing. in like 24
Well, the rule is you can always overprice a home. You could never underprice a home because you're gonna get multiple offers.
Yeah,
And
we
it'll
do.
probably go back.
go down.
Yeah.
Never address on
Dude, it's 49.
Or the
Do you have a buyer, Katie? Maybe.
Okay.
yeah, let's chat. He's like, let's chat afterwards.
I think it's 4960 Flat Creek Road.
Awesome.
4940 Flat Creek Road. Sorry.
Bam.
Now 4926 is coming on the market in about a month.
Is it on?
You get your pre-list at Frank.
I know.
Right now.
That's all right, and I'm not doing it. It's a ranch on a basement